What's happening, combat sports fans? This is Ryan Thomas presenting a new mini-series within the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. This is Fight Series, Episode 1, Arturo Thunder Gatti versus Irish Mickey Ward. Fight Series will be a new series brought to you by yours truly, in which I will chronicle some of the greatest fights that combat sports has to offer. The first one being Gatti versus Ward. Obviously, tomorrow we'll bring you another episode. I will bring you another episode of Fight Series. This fight took place on May 18th, 2002. This was a fight that hardcore boxing purists, the pugilists within the sport of boxing, believed that this would be one of those underrated fights that would bring you a new classic, whether it was a Hagler Hearns-esque classic or a Ali Frazier-esque classic. They knew that it would be a potential, quote-unquote, toe-to-toe bout between two men that were polar opposites. This fight took place in the Mohegan Sun Arena in Connecticut. You had Lowell's, the pride of Lowell, Irish Mickey Ward, Boston's finest, rocking the Curt Schilling, I guess, take on the Boston Red Sox jersey, the Lowell Spinners jersey. And you're seeing here the last bout that, Gatti had that really did not go well against Sanchez in 1997. This was actually the real live broadcast of what was Ward versus Gatti. And this was a fight that Mickey Ward was on the winning end of against Shane Neary, a fight overseas that most believed would go against Ward. And Mickey Ward was a fighter that was known for his toughness, his grit, his tenacity, his ability to fire off a brutal liver shot, a brutal body shot, left to the body, left to the head, left to the head, left to the body. That was a combination that he really loved to throw. And here you have Arturo Gatti, the former 130-pound champion. You will see here throughout the show that not only was Gatti a fighter that I greatly admired at this time in my first kind of years getting into the sport of boxing, but he was a fighter that I truly believed that was not only one of the most entertaining fighters, but one of my favorite fighters just along the way. And a fighter indeed that, had fought the who's who, had fought, plenty of great fighters over the course of his career. But this one was interesting. This fight was not supposed to happen. The narrative of this fight was that Arturo Gatti would eventually fight Shane Neary. But being that Mickey Ward beat Shane Neary, Gatti then had a worthy opponent in Mickey Ward. And a lot of fighters could not stand toe-to-toe with Arturo Gatti, but Mickey Ward was willing to oblige. As this says, Fight Series is an all-new series presented by Ryan Thomas, the voice you're hearing right now of the Thomas Take Sports Podcast, chronicling the greatest fights in combat sports history. That won't be just within boxing. That will also be within the sport of mixed martial arts as well. Episode 1, Ward versus Gatti, May 18th, 2002 in the Mohegan Sun Arena. And going into this one, we knew that both of these guys could entertain, but both of these guys had losses on their records. Going into the bout, Mickey Ward was 37-11, Gatti was 34-5, and this was the first bout in what is considered to be one of the greatest trilogies in boxing history. Emmanuel Stewart, who was commentating this fight along with Jim Lampley, referred to this fight as not just the greatest fight of the century, but the greatest round of the century. I will not give away what round that was, but as you see this fight really materialize, you really start to understand just what makes this fight so special between Irish Mickey Ward and Arturo Thunder Gatti. Both men would go on to be shared in history as not just two great fighters, but two fighters that shared the same ring, three separate occasions that really did some special stuff inside that ring. And there's a saying that you leave the ring a lesser version of yourself. There's no doubt about it. After this fight, which was arguably the most brutal and vicious bout of this trilogy, that both Ward and Gatti left the ring lesser versions of themselves. This was a true war between two fighters that knew that their careers culminated in this bout. Ward would go on to fight other fights. Gatti would go on to fight other fights, but this was the making of something special between Mickey Ward and Arturo Gatti. And it kind of goes back to just how special boxing was at this time. We were kind of at the tail end of the heavyweight run that was, Mike Tyson and Lennox Lewis and Evander Holyfield. And we'll get into those guys in other episodes of this Fight Series show. But Mickey Ward and Arturo Gatti were really two fighters that were able to put it on the line. And you'll see that in this ring on this Fight Series episode. Mickey Ward took fights that he had no business being in. He had representation, whether it's management, agents, you name it, trainers. His family situation was made into a movie. His life literally was made into a movie. The Fighter with Mark Wahlberg and Christian Bale, his brother, Mickey Ward's brother. Dickie Eklund fought Sugar Ray Leonard once upon a time. Christian Bale played Dickie Eklund in that movie. For those of you that haven't seen it, you know that you need to see it. Know that you need to see it. Let me tell you that you need to see it. And you see the win-loss record of Arturo Gatti, 34-5 with 28 knockouts, a devastating puncher, and a guy that could take one to throw one. That's a fact. Fight Series will be back tomorrow. The episode that will be on tomorrow will be Holyfield versus Tyson, Part 1. I'm also going to bring you Holyfield and Tyson, Part 2. Of course, got to bring you that fight. This is Fight Series Ward versus Gatti. And I am so excited to go round by round in this fight. Both guys with a ton of respect for one another, and I think that's what made this fight so special. When you have that mutual respect between fighter A and fighter B, you know that respect is there, but the skills are really what matter in there. The skills are really what that's what's tested in this ring. And boy, did they test each other in this one. So here we go. Round 1, Irish Mickey Ward, Arturo Thunder Gatti. Here we go. Both guys were amped up. Both guys were coming out of their corner a little bit earlier than what they're accustomed to. Both guys are ready. Mickey Ward had that patented left hook. Mickey Ward stayed light on his feet, but when he threw bombs, threw hard punches. Each punch was with malicious intent. Arturo Thunder Gatti, obviously with a nickname like Thunder, you're hitting pretty hard. Gatti had that kind of rangy, kind of light-footed, fleet-footed style that he tried to implement, but what he came to find out was with Ward's arms kind of straight as they are in that sort of shell-like conventional stance, Ward would just push forward with those forearms and try to get into the clinch and try to make something out of this early on. Ward had that high trunks, that the trunks are pretty high, way above the navel, and he would just move forward, try to throw that left hook as much as possible. And for a feeling out process that is typical in today's boxing bouts in the first round, that's not what you saw in this one. Ward threw hard shots already here in the first couple minutes. Gatti's throwing hard shots in the first couple minutes as well. And they're both staying low, trying not to get caught with an overhand or a looping punch. They're level changing, in the words of mixed martial arts, trying to fire off body to head punches. And Ward is already cut here in this first round from that combination that Arturo Thunder Gatti landed. And Gatti would just piece together a combination, whether it was a body punch to the head, a body punch, then a headshot, or he'd throw just a nasty left hook like he did right there. He would extend fully on his punches, and he had an ability to pull back within two punches. Throw one close, pull back, throw that long one. Throw one close, pull back, throw that long one. That's what he was so good at, and throwing these butter churning hooks. Just bing, 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 out. Bing, 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 out. And Mickey Ward had never fought someone like that. You see the frustration on Ward there when he's pounding those gloves together. He's extremely frustrated in the sense that he can't get really inside, because anytime he gets inside, Mickey Ward just fires punches and sticks and moves. Sticks and moves. That's his strategy in this first round, and no doubt about it, with the cut that Mickey Ward suffered in this first round, you'd be a fool to say that Mickey Ward didn't come away with, that Arturo Gatti didn't come away with this round, and Gotti's kind of trolling Mickey Ward there, kind of going side to side, saying, "Yeah, I got you that round. That was my round in this fight." What is the corner saying to Mickey Ward? Saying, "Dude, you can't stay inside this much." Trainer Dickie Eklund, the brother of Mickey Ward, Al Gavin and Sal Lanano, these were guys that were in the corner of Mickey Ward throughout the entirety of Mickey Ward's career. These were guys that he grew up with, guys that he trusted as friends more than cutmen or cornermen or trainer. They're practically blood in the sense of his brother, Dickie, blood brother, and his cutmen, cornermen, all people that he trusts. But Mickey Ward had never went against someone that could stay on the inside and throw punches on the inside that quickly, and punches that were that big, power shots, essentially, haymakers. Gotti could throw and get in and get out. What we start to see here in this second round, obviously Harold Letterman has the same scorecard as me. I had Gotti winning that round as well. What we start to see here, though, is Mickey Ward really press the action in this second round. Gotti's so ever elusive and able to just fire off 4, 5, 6 punches. Punches in bunches from Arturo Gatti. Mickey Ward in the International Boxing Hall of Fame. Arturo Gatti held in high regard as one of the greatest warriors that the boxing ring has ever seen. And Gatti kind of picking up where he left off in this second round. Mickey Ward just could not really get anything off that was clean. Anytime he would try to fire a punch off, Gatti would duck under it like he did right there, or he would just circle away and find a way to counter and move constantly. Oftentimes in that first round, Gotti's not throwing the first few punches, but in the second round, he is trying to throw the first few punches, because Ward can't really get a read on him at this point. Ward hasn't really been able to establish a jab or to establish a straight. And as far as the body punches go, which are Ward's bread and butter, Gotti's got that left arm tucked low. He's got that shoulder somewhat turned, so the body is not really available unless he's in these clinch situations. And the ref's making sure that those are few and far between. What I see here is two guys that knew what was at stake. Was it the biggest fight of all time? No. Did we know what we were about to see as boxing fans as this fight would progress? No, we did not. But what we saw was one of the best fights of all time. Fight that I've just grown to love and appreciate as the years have gone on. I have boxing memorabilia in my house featuring Mickey Ward. I got to get some Gotti stuff in the house. That's the next thing. So as the final 30 seconds of the round continue, Ward was trying like hell to land as much as he could, but few and far between as far as punches landing. Ward trying to really corner Gotti and get him in the corner, get him against the ropes, trying to make the fight a true gritty fight that Gotti is always welcomed to and prepared for, but in that we didn't quite see that in this round. He was able to avoid that. Buddy McGirt, Joe Souza, Mikey Skoronsky, they got to be pretty happy for the first 2 rounds, at least, in the case of Arturo Gatti, with what he was able to establish in this fight. In the first 2 rounds, Dickie Eklund is hoping that Mickey starts to wake up here. With the punches thrown through round 2, Gotti landed 57 through 136. Ward, a very low number as far as punches thrown, and obviously a low number of punches thrown, and even lower number of punches landed. With 18, 19 punches landed there through the first 2 rounds. So round 3, Gotti's feeling like, okay, round 2 is in the books, round 1 is in the books, I'm up 2 rounds to none. Ward is feeling like, I got to make this my fight here in the 3rd round. However that happens, it has to happen now, not later. So I'm going to push forward. Gotti's firing an uppercut and a right hook. Uppercut, left hook. Ward is just trying to pop that jab straight into Gotti's face here, but the speed of Arturo Gatti and the combinations that Gatti lands here in this fight are really what set him apart as one of the greatest toe-to-toe boxers in the history of the sport. And we're talking, about toe-to-toe fights. Hagler-Hearns is one of those fights that I'll definitely discuss on this show, but I had to do this one first. This was one that I remember watching. I was 10 watching this fight. And I thought, man, this is something special. Because both guys really have the world at their fingertips in this moment. Understanding that, we're not the greatest fighters on the face of the earth. We have losses. I have 11 in the case of Ward. Gotti's got 5. But we're each other's equal. Let's find out who's better. And really, the pace really starts to get picked up here as Gotti's landing lefts and rights, and Ward is still pushing forward. Ever so durable. Trying to wear on Gatti, lean on Gatti. That is where Ward is extremely successful. When he's coming in on the inside, he'll take a couple. He'll take more than a couple. But the punches that he can throw are just as hard after getting hit as they would be him firing the shots not getting hit. The ability for both of these guys to fight in the clinch and to fire the punches off that they do, that is really where Ward had his bread and butter there. He'd throw a right hook to the head, a left hook to the body. That was his favorite combo, and that left-hand liver shot that he's landed multiple times, Gatti starts to say to himself, I'm going to throw that. I'm going to throw that with my right hand. I'm going to throw that with my right hand again and again and again. Meanwhile, Ward is trying to protect the body, but trying to protect the head. Gotti's so quick at going back and forth. In this 3rd round, the pace is just starting to explode. You're really starting to see these guys unload. This is where the fight gets tough to score. How do you score this round if you are a judge? Did Gatti win this round too? At the end of the last 30 seconds, I feel like Gatti landed 40 shots and Ward only really landed, 10. So how do you score that round? How do you score when the last 30 seconds Gatti was firing punches left and right? And look at this, 42%. 40%. Gotti's throwing way more punches in these first 3 rounds than Ward. and he's landing more. So I would assume that Gotti's winning, but boxing judges are boxing judges for a reason, to say the least. And this just shows the time that we were living in. The countdown to Lennox Lewis and Mike Tyson, Holyfield versus Rahman, June 8th, that Saturday in 2002. You had Lennox Lewis going against Iron Mike Tyson, Diego Morales, and Barrera, part 2. This really lets me know of what the state of boxing was then at this point. And HBO, seeing HBO boxing, that lets me know where we're at in terms of boxing as well, because HBO boxing doesn't even exist anymore, unfortunately. It was a pillar for the sport, and now it's gone. It's a real shame. So Gotti here winning the first 3 rounds on Harold Letterman's scorecard. I would agree with that. I would say that that's a safe assessment, but along the way, we know Ward is really going to press the action and make this a fight. It's one of the greatest fights of all time for a reason. The round in which is, the one particular round that's coming here is regarded as the greatest round in boxing history. And I don't want to give away what round that was, but it's coming. It's coming. So early on, their first minute of the round, they're going toe to toe. They're going back and forth. Ward has had a real tough time landing his right hand, and he loves to land that right hand in order to throw shots to the body. If he can't land that right hand, how can he throw off the body, throw to the body? And there it is right there. He throws the right hand, lands it. The right arm is trapped by Gotti. He throws lefts, and then Ward threw punches to the body. Quickest way to slow down an opponent is to land shots to his body. And there is a definite speed advantage here between Gotti and Ward. Gotti has the speed advantage compared to Ward. And really here is where Gotti is just chewing Ward up on the inside. But Ward doesn't even move. The punches that Gotti landed in this fight on Mickey Ward would have dropped any of his other opponents, but Mickey Ward. There is a difference here. There are levels to this game, and that's what both of these guys are starting to realize. The level that they have to rise to is their highest level that they've ever had to rise to, and it's against one another. Both of these guys are bringing out the best in one another in this fight thus far. Ward might have lost the first 3 rounds, but he's still fighting. He's still pushing forward. He's still in the face of Arturo Gatti. He's still there. Meanwhile, Gotti is just doing what he's doing best. He's sticking and moving, firing combos, pressing the action more in this round. The first 3 rounds, it was, and he's drops Ward with a liver shot there, and Ward is extremely frustrated. I did not believe that was the round in which Mickey Ward was dropped, but that's why it's called a memory. You forget things over time. 2002, this was 19 years ago. So on the judges' scorecards, Gotti is winning this fight with relative ease. What changes in this fight to make it the fight that it is known as today as one of the better fights in boxing history? The ref feels like that was a little low, maybe, or I'm not sure what went on there, but looked like a clean body shot to me. So Gotti drops Ward in the 4th round. First 3 rounds went to Gotti. Gotti is in a huge advantage in the scorecards on this one so far. And Ward is just completely going back to the drawing board here. Mentally trying to figure out, what can I do to get back at Gotti? I'm pushing forward. I'm trying to land as many punches as possible, but for every 4 I'm throwing, he's throwing 7 just as fast. Oh, that was low. That was a definite low shot. So that was not a true drop. It looked like a body shot from the angle that they showed during the round with the pay-per-view angle. But upon further review, that was not a true knockdown. Fight Series is an all-new series presented by Ryan Thomas of the Thomas Take Sports Podcast, chronicling the greatest fights in combat sports history. Tonight, Arturo Gatti versus Mickey Ward, Part 1. Tomorrow, Evander Real Deal Holyfield and Iron Mike Tyson. So Gatti pressed in the action. He did drop Ward in the 4th round, but it was not a true clean body shot. It was a low blow, but Gatti really wants to send Mickey Ward timbering to the canvas, and Ward is not having any of it. He's almost spinning Gatti in a circle there with his forearm, forcing Gatti to circle, kind of doing like a ring around the rosy type boxing clinch, and that is where Mickey Ward was able to get his bread and butter shots, his left hook to the head, left hook to the body, right hook to the head, left hook to the body. He loved finding a way to rattle off that left hook to the body within a combination, any which way he could. And for a southpaw to have that dominant punch with that left hand, whether it's to the head or to the body or both, obviously, you're in real good hands. But southpaws oftentimes have a tough time defending against a quicker fighter because they're in reverse. And in this case, Ward trying to really catch up to Gatti, blow for blow, realizing as the rounds go on, you can't catch up to Gatti punch for punch, but you can try to wear on him and force Gatti to tire. And I think Gatti starts to tire a little bit. Gatti starts to realize what happened there. And in that round, Gatti, quote unquote, dropped Ward. They actually took a point away for the low blow, according to, well, Harold Letterman's scorecard took a point away. So they scored that a 10-8 round for Ward. But Ward is forcing Gatti to backpedal right into the ropes. This is where you see the ring generalship of Irish Mickey Ward. Granted, he's getting hit with shots, but he's the one that's forcing Ward. He's the one that is forcing Gatti to move backwards. But now Gatti is forcing Ward to move backwards, and the tides of momentum. Mickey Ward, an all-out onslaught here in the 5th round. Looked like he had Arturo Gatti finished here in that 5th round. Unanswered shots, probably about 14 unanswered punches from Mickey Ward. And the tide starts to change. Mickey Ward goes into his corner much more confident, much more relaxed, much more happy, to be honest. Mickey Ward looked happy sitting on that stool in that round. And yeah, Gatti landed more punches in round 5, but Ward landed the more devastating strikes in round 5. So Ward has 2 rounds here. So now we're in, going into the 6th round. The fight is 3 rounds to 2 in the case of Gatti with the scoring advantage here. Right after that quote unquote low blow, that's where the momentum kind of changed. Gatti did land some real hard shots, but as the round progressed, Ward was able to press the action, press his forearms into Gatti, tire him out a little bit, and there you see just an onslaught of hooks, lefts, rights, lefts to the body, rights to the body. Ward could find that liver on the left side and the ribs on the right side just as well as anyone in boxing. In the 6th round starts, Ward is pumping up the volume. Harold Letterman has it 47-47 due to that point deduction. So right now, this fight is scoring-wise a tie. Maybe rounds-wise, you could score 3 rounds to 2, but points-wise, it's tied due to a 10-8 round in round number 5 on Harold Letterman's scorecard. Ward pushing Gatti against the fence, trying to find angles, trying to find any opening to land body shots, head body. That was a strategy that Dickie Eklund implemented in Mickey Ward's game plan as a youngster, and a strategy that Dickie Eklund implemented in his fighting career as well. Mickey Ward was used to getting into these pressure cooker situations where he was forced to dig deep. Arturo Gatti was the master at digging deep. So it was about right here in the 6th round, 153, 152 left, where both guys had to tell themselves which one of us is going to dig deeper. Which one of us is going to bite down on our mouthpiece and leave it all in there? And essentially, they both said that. They both said that to one another right around the same time. And that's what created this masterpiece of a fight. Half hour into the show, we have a deadlock fight where if you're judging this fight, you say to yourself, Ward is pressing Gatti against the ropes, but he's not really landing a lot. Gatti is fighting very well, circling essentially off the ropes, fighting extremely well using head movement, forcing Ward to miss shots. Gatti is forcing Ward to come to him. It looks like Gatti gets a little bit of a second wind here in this round. He's lighter on his feet. He's moving very, very swiftly and soundly in this round. But as a judge, who do you score this round for, given that Ward is not really landing the punches that he should be landing, not really throwing the punches that he should be throwing in this round? Gatti is throwing far more punches, and he's landing far more punches in this particular round. It's up to Ward in this 30-second clip here to really fire off some shots that could sway a judge or two or three. But I think this was Gatti's round here. If I'm scoring this fight, I'd say that this sixth round was Gatti's round. For as energetic as Ward was heading out to the round beyond the bell, right when that bell was rang, I thought Gatti ended up being the aggressor and then some, really starts feeling it. When Gatti got on his toes and started bouncing and firing off those lefts and rights, that's when you knew thunder was rolling. That's when you knew that he was feeling good. He was feeling good, feeling fine. This is another day at the office for the late, great Arturo Gatti, gone far too soon in the world of boxing and is very missed in the boxing world. But a fighter that nonetheless has an everlasting legacy for what he contributed to the sport of boxing. The majority of that contribution was in these fights with Mickey Ward, Irish Mickey Ward. So Ward is saying to himself, okay, sixth round, didn't really implement the strategy I wanted to. Seventh round, let's go, Mickey, let's go. Let's make this happen. I got this cut on my right eye. It's not really impacting my vision. It's definitely bleeding, and it could get worse with a guy like Arturo Gatti throwing punches at me. But I got to make up some points. I got to get some rounds on my side. And Harold Lederman agrees with me, and I agree with Harold Lederman. For as great a fight as this is, it was actually easy to score through the first 6 rounds, with Gatti winning that last round 57-56 on the judges' scorecard, known as Harold Lederman, the late, great Harold Lederman. Lost him too, unfortunately. Boxing has lost so many figures in the last 10, 15 years, especially. Muhammad Ali being one of them, Joe Frazier being one of them. Arturo Gatti firing off lefts and rights to start the round, feeling confident. Gotti's hands are low. He's inviting Mickey Ward to the inside, landing the punches on the inside that he needs to land. There's no doubt about it. He's inviting Mickey Ward to tangle. 7th round here. Mickey Ward has got Gatti against the ropes here early in these moments of this round, but it's just not, he's not able to land much in these sequences. Gotti's able to circle and Gotti's able to do that. Just throw these thunderous shots, moving side to side. Not many fighters could move side to side and throw hooks that quickly and that accurately. Precision hooks while moving. Mickey Ward's pressing the action. Still pressing the action. Trying to catch and counter. Force Arturo Gatti, in the case of Mickey Ward, trying to force Arturo Gatti to throw shots that he could counter, but standing there flat-footed, just covering up, that's a field day for Arturo Gatti. That's Gotti at his best. When you stand still and just cover up, Gotti's gonna treat you like a heavy bag. And sometimes in moments of this fight, it did look like a speed bag punching a heavy bag. The speed bag being Arturo Gatti and the heavy bag being Irish Mickey Ward. But for as many punches as Ward ate in the first 3 rounds, he came after Gatti the 4th, 5th, 6th, and here in the 7th. But Ward really on the defense here as the round ends with Gatti just swinging for the fences. That's the fight that Mickey Ward really likes, the fight that forces him to swing for the fences. So this round here, I would give to Mickey Ward. Irish Mickey Ward, pardon me, I wouldn't give this round to Mickey Ward. I'd give this round to Gatti. Mickey Ward is struggling to land punches in succession, land those combination punches, whereas Gatti is having extreme success landing those combination punches. Now, this shows here fights past round 7. This is a key statistic. Ward has fought 20 fights past round 7. He's 11-9. Gatti has fought 9 fights past round 7. Didn't catch the record there. You guys probably caught it on the graphic, but this is where this experience here for a fighter can really set a fighter apart from his opponent. And this could be the underlying fact of this fight, that Mickey Ward was just more experienced here in these later rounds in comparison to Arturo Gatti. The 8th round begins with Ward on the back foot, or Ward on the front foot, Gatti on the back foot, but Ward down 2 points on the scorecard of Harold Letterman, down 2 points on my scorecard as well, for what it's worth. And Ward essentially knowing that something's got to give here. I got to move forward. I got to make something happen. I got to land my shots and force Gatti to fold. Ward a little frustrated there with the clinch work of Gatti, but back to it. Gatti firing off a nice right to the body, left to the head, pushing forward with straight punches on the left and right hand. And Ward is eating them for breakfast, but he is very frustrated. He knows he's got to get back to it. He's got to get on the judges' scorecards. With a winning round here in this 8th round. And man, this was such a fun fight. Look at the crowd. The crowd is engaged. They're entertained in the Mohegan Sun Arena, which has hosted so many great fights. Mohegan Sun is now an arena that, is known to host plenty of great MMA fights as well. God, he's just so quick at those left rights to the head, left, right, right, left. It's just a machine in there. Ducks one way, fires punches the other way, ducks one way, fires punches the other way, sticks and moves. Fully extends on that right hand. And that right hand is just like a piston. Just boom, right down the pipe. Throws almost like an overhand looping right, but it's quick. He throws like an underhand kind of short shovel hook uppercut. We start to see that here in the clinch, but Ward throws that beautiful left hand. Ward's left hand in the clinch in close proximity is really something else. Right hand hits hard too, but the left, he's so natural moving with that left off of the clinch, and he's able to score. Really, that's where Ward scored mostly in this fight, is in these close proximity exchanges where Ward is able to just fire off these short punches on Arturo Gatti. And I really love watching Gatti just throw these punches like a zombie, just trying to push forward. That one really caught Gatti on the end of his chin, forces him to step right back. Now Ward changing the tide of this fight here off of that one. Gatti is extremely hurt. The ref steps in. The round ends. Gatti was badly hurt in this 8th round. And now we have the preview, the precursor to what is considered to be the greatest round in the history of boxing, the round of the century, as said by Harold Letterman. Ward is finding his momentum. This is his 21st fight, lasting beyond the 7th round. This is only Gotti's 10th fight, lasting beyond the 7th round. That round was all Irish Mickey Ward. He landed 65, a whopping 65% of his punches in that round, knowing that the 9th round is coming, knowing that, yep, I have an opportunity here to close the window, close the gap on the scorecards. Ward put on a clinic. That was definitely a low blow. That was to the leg. There was one punch here in the midst of all those punches that were a low blow, but hey, tit for tat. Gatti got Ward with a low blow. It's only fitting that Ward got Gatti with a low blow on another round. Ward coming straight forward, trying to land as many punches as possible in the first 5 seconds of this round. Now Ward makes up a point on Harold Letterman's scorecard, and Ward is just pushing forward. Gatti drops to his knee. Ward told to go over to his corner. Gatti badly hurt. And he's got to be thinking, what the hell? How did this happen? I had rounds on this guy. And he just kept coming forward, landing these ridiculously hard flush shots to my body, up to my head, up to my down to my ribs, down to my head, up to my head, just back and forth. The pace that Irish Mickey Ward put forth on Arturo Gatti, once Gatti showed that he was hurt, once Gatti showed that he was wounded, Mickey Ward was on him. But you can't knock out Arturo Gatti. Not that easily. Gatti pushing forward, too. They're going back and forth. The fighting pride of Lowell, Arturo Thunder Gatti. They're forehead to forehead. Gotti's trying to throw as many punches as he can while Ward is in block mode. But Ward knows that if he just takes a couple steps forward and leans into Gatti, things could sway the other way. This 9th round was a hellacious pace from both Irish Mickey Ward and Arturo Thunder Gatti. Both of these guys looked like they were done in this fight, in this round, only for the round to come to this last-minute conclusion with Ward's back in the corner, Gatti firing punches off. First minute of the round, it was all Irish Mickey Ward. This is probably the toughest round to score in all my years of watching boxing. I couldn't imagine scoring this round knowing that I had to call one of these guys a loser. You don't have to. You could score a draw. But look at this pace between these two guys, leaving it all in there. The head just swiftly being rocked back and forth of Arturo Gatti by Mickey Ward. Mickey Ward was badly hurt in the round as well. But now Mickey Ward, after absorbing all those shots, firing off his own shots, firing off uppercuts, right hands to the ear of Arturo Gatti, lefts to the head of Arturo Gatti. And with 20 seconds left, Mickey Ward is just embracing the onslaught. Knowing he's got to fire off as many punches as he can to end this round and come out in the judge's eyes the winner of the round. He does just that, throwing lefts and rights. Gatti was really badly hurt there in that round. And you start to see Gatti look into his corner like, holy shit, this guy is tough. Ward landed 60 to Gotti's 42. Ward threw 82, Gatti threw 61. Ward landed 73% of his punches, but for good measure, Gatti landed 69% of his punches. So defense is being thrown out the goddamn window. At this point, both of these guys are freaking exhausted. Both of these guys know that they've hurt each other very badly here in the first 9 rounds of this fight. They're both coming off of the most hellacious pace-filled round in boxing history in the 9th round of this fight. And Gatti dropped Ward, or Ward dropped Gatti, but Gatti landed a lot of hard punches in that round. But it's amazing to me how Gatti would throw these hard punches on Ward, and Ward would just nod like it was just fun. both of these guys, you have to be built a certain way to put on a fight of this caliber. You have to be mentally built a certain way. Both of these guys are showing respect to each other here as this fight has progressed into something special. Both of these guys know what they've done thus far as something special. In round 10, Gatti trying to get back to his fleet-footed ways, Ward not having any of it, staying on him like a fly on a turd, trying to get up to him, trying to get in his face, trying to land as many punches as possible. And Ward taking back the momentum on Harold Letterman's scorecard. I would agree that Ward did win that famous 9th round, but a 10-8, that's bold by Harold Letterman to score that one at 10-8. It was close, but I definitely feel Ward won that round. He landed more shots, threw more shots. So now, these last 2 rounds have forced Ward to become the winner of this judge's scorecard here in Harold Letterman's eyes. But Gatti still in this, still firing shots, still forcing Ward to throw shots to counter and move. The brass balls on this guy. He was something special. He was so special that anytime any fighter is labeled as tough or durable, they're labeled a Gatti type fighter. That's how you know that you achieved true greatness in there. Both of these guys, the exhaustion is starting to be seen. Ward is really just flailing at this point in this round as Gatti was landing punches at will. Ward was definitely rocked. The cut is starting to become a problem. It's leaking into his eye a little bit. It's not a problem for Mickey Ward, though. He's been there, done that, but beautiful sneaked in right hand there by Ward, but Gatti is just firing off punches left and right. And it's amazing to me the energy that both of these guys have. We're talking the 10th round, and it's not like they've been hitting each other with pillows. Both of these guys have been hurt. Both of these guys have been smashed into smithereens. They're not leaking blood everywhere, but they're swollen, they're battered, they're bruised, they're achy, they're exhausted. And when the ref breaks these guys apart, forces these guys to come together, we see a completely different Mickey Ward. It's like a second wind was caught by both of these guys in various points of this fight. There would be these flurries, these explosions of punches between Mickey Ward and Arturo Gatti. And then they'd come together, exhausted. And what a goddamn fight this was. Both of these guys knew that they did something special. Both of these guys knew that they would do it again. Both of these guys knew that they achieved something great in that ring, something special that will be remembered for many, many, many years to come, forever. So Letterman scored that round for Gatti. That would rule it a draw. But really, was there a winner? Was there a loser? No. They both won. No matter who was the winner or the loser of the fight, they both won because they both rose to the occasion. Gotti's still bouncing on his feet. Man, we lost way too soon. I mentioned it in the lead up to one of the rounds in the show. This was a man that dedicated his life to the sport of boxing. Passed under extremely mysterious circumstances, with his wife being arrested for homicide and then released after an autopsy done in Brazil ruled his death was a suicide. But I don't want to speculate on what happened, but I just have a very tough time believing that a man like Arturo Gatti would give up on life when he never gave up in the ring. Mickey Ward, immortalized as one of the most durable boxers of his era, along with Arturo Gatti. They both shared each other's success, and they did it with a smile. Oscar de la Hoya famously said that Arturo Gatti hit him the hardest out of any fighter he had ever fought. And keep in mind, De La Hoya faced many big punchers from 130 pounds to 160 pounds. Mickey Ward fought fighters that were above his weight, that weighed more than him. He fought anyone and everyone that they put in front of him. There was a lot of mismanagement that went on in his career, his amateur career. He had a ton of success in New England. His New England 3-time Gold Glove champ, turned pro, winning his first 14 fights, and he lost 4 consecutive fights in 90 and 91, and he took a break from boxing. And during his break, he used some of the funds from his day job on a road paving crew to have surgery on his right hand, which was badly hurt. And he had fought with that badly hurt right hand in several bouts, which made his left hand the patented fist. It provided him with a comfortability, being that he couldn't throw his right. He had to practice throwing his left, which made his left an extremely lethal shot. The surgery that he had on his right hand, surgery that Mickey Ward had on his right hand, used some of the bone from Ward's pelvis to strengthen and fuse the bones in his hand. So these guys came into this fight and came into a lot of fights in their career with just brutal injuries. And there you know that Ward probably hurt his elbow, maybe cracked his elbow, or something went on there because his elbow did not look right. The last 3 fights of Mickey Ward's career were all against Arturo Gatti. The first one, Mickey Ward, the victor. Majority decision, Irish Mickey Ward wins this fight. May 18th, 2002. They would go on to fight later that year in November of 2002, Boardwalk Hall in Atlantic City, New Jersey. And the trilogy bout would take place in June of 2003 in Boardwalk Hall in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Very interesting that Ward did get the decision, the majority decision in the first fight, due to the fact that Gatti threw more punches and landed more punches, but the point deduction, so to speak, from the low blow, whether the point was deducted or not in that round, I know that Harold Letterman put that on his scorecard, but power punches, that is a high number of power punches thrown by both gentlemen, and Gatti landed a little bit more, obviously, than Mickey Ward, 296 to 225 with a 60% landed percentage and 55% landed percentage for Mickey Ward. But both of these guys knew that they were going to do it again. And as I said, they did it again twice. And this is just one of those fights that really, for me, it provided a moment for me as a fight fan that I don't think is ever going to be replaced by any other fight. Knowing that this was the beginning of, something really special, knowing that this fight in and of itself was something special, understanding the mutual admiration and respect that both Mickey Ward and Arturo Gatti had for one another. It really set in stone the difference between, there's title fights out there, and then there's fights between two men that, the whole saying, styles make fights. The styles of both Mickey Ward and Arturo Gatti were really what made this fight so special. And to see it come to fruition is one thing, but for it to blow beyond any and all expectations is another. And I think that's what Larry Merchant and a lot of the pundits and writers and analysts and everyone out there, fans, realize that this fight surpassed our expectations. This fight went beyond what we thought it would be. And both guys are responsible for that. Both guys should be appreciated for that. And that's why I say for this particular fight, there was no winner. There was no loser. We won. The fans won. Gotti won. Ward won. They gained recognition that both were starving for at one point. Both of these guys at one point didn't even have a pot to piss in as boxers. We're fighting on the underground, cards. We're fighting in, fights that they had no business fighting in. I mentioned it with Mickey Ward. He was taking fights in weight classes that he didn't belong in, taking on fighters that that outweighed him by 30 pounds, 20 pounds. Gatti fought wars. Every fight that Gatti ever fought in seemed to be a war, even the fights that he finished. But what a fight, what a round. That 9th round really was what is still regarded to this day as the greatest round in boxing history. And was it a pure boxing? You see Ward drop Gatti with that body punch, and Gatti looked at him like, what the hell is in that left hand of yours? Concrete? I mean, what was that? He looks at him like, man, I've never been hit with anything like that before. And then he fires this just jolting right hand that punches through Gatti's face. The right hand was fully extended. And Ward just knew how to pour it on. These right and left hooks almost looked like slaps, but they were hard, nasty punches. What a fight. What a fight. I was so happy to bring that to you guys on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. That was Fight Series, Mickey Ward versus Arturo Gatti. I cannot wait for episode 2 of Fight Series with yours truly commentating and reacting to all things classic boxing, classic mixed martial arts. As I said, Fight Series is an all-new series presented by yours truly, Ryan Thomas, of the Thomas Take Sports Podcast, chronicling the greatest fights in combat sports history. Episode 1, Arturo Gatti and Irish Mickey Ward. Fight Series will be back tomorrow for episode 2. That one is going to be Evander Holyfield and Mike Tyson. Very pumped up for Fight Series, a great new innovative idea for me to create some awesome content for the combat sports fans out there. Stay tuned, stay safe, and keep punching. Take care.